Hi, welcome to Apache Hadoop 3x course. I'm Abhishek Sakhuja from UpDegree, and in this video we are going to see how to set up a virtual machine. So in the last video I already told you the prerequisite required for this lab, and I hope you have downloaded it. For example, the VirtualBox and Hadoop ISO image. I hope you have the sufficient amount of hard disk and RAM in your machine. So let me open my VirtualBox, which is here. And I already have a lot of machine over here, but we are not going to focus. So let's create a new one. So you go ahead and click on this new icon over here, and it will open a pop-up which require us to give the name for this virtual machine. So let's say this is an UpDegree Hadoop 3x. I would call it as machine 2 because the one of the machine is already up and running, just to show you later on that how it looks like. So I'll just give a name as machine 2, and this is our lab. So then you need to select the type. We are doing with the Linux, so I'll just go ahead and select Linux. Now normally what people do, they select Ubuntu 64-bit or just select your 32 or 64-bit. Some people may not see 64-bit in their machine, so they need to check whether their machine supports 64-bit or not. According to that, you need to download the ISO file as well that I showed you on the website. And some people may have another issue, like they will not able to see 64-bit, but when they go to their settings, normally in Windows, it will show only Ubuntu 32-bit. Why? Because their virtualization is not open for 64-bit. So you need to Google it, that how to start with a virtualization for 64-bit. There is a process. You go to BIOS setup and enable your virtualization from there. Then only you'll be able to see these 64-bit option as well. So it is always good that because these days we have laptops which is compatible with both 64 32-bit, but if you don't have 64-bit, you have to go with 32-bit option. So I'm not going to select Ubuntu 64-bit option over here because this is not a wise option that I would select. So I would go ahead and select other Linux 64-bit. But of course you may be having a question like, we are starting with the Ubuntu 64-bit, but why we are not selecting Ubuntu as a version? There are some compatibility issues with the Ubuntu 64-bit, and that's why if you select other Linux 64-bit, it works absolutely fine. Continue. And here you can select the memory that you need. I have a 16 GB memory, and I will set around 1.5 for each of the machines. However, I can just set it at later also. I just need to stop my machine and change the RAM. So that's quite simple. Continue. Now it is ask you for the hard disk. So you just select this option, create a virtual hard disk now. Although the recommended size for the hard disk 8, but we are going to set up it let's say 15 GB for each of the machine. So create a virtual hard disk now, create, and then you select the third option. In the Windows you may have 4 or 5 option, but you always select VMDK, which is your virtual machine disk. Continue. Then you select dynamically allocated. So what is the difference between the three is dynamically allocated, it means that if I say I want to have a 15 GB of hard disk to be assigned to a machine, the 15 GB will not be given to our virtual machine at one go. It will do it eventually. As soon as you require, it is going to dynamically allocate the hard disk. So therefore dynamically allocated. If you do fixed size, it's just 15 GB will be taken from your machine and assigned to the disk. So that's a wastage of the storage. And then split into files of less than 2 MB. That's if you want to 2 GB. If you want to have a splitted files option for your hard disk, you can also take this 2 GB. So you'll have multiple disks to be shown within your operating system. Dynamically allocated, click continue. For Windows users, this is very important because in Mac we have only one drive, so we can just select to a default location. But for Windows, by default it will go to the C drive. So select any other drive which you think that is more appropriate or have more amount of memory. But sometimes in Windows also people have just one drive, so you can just go ahead and select that drive and any appropriate location that you want to store with. I am already storing in my appropriate location of VirtualBox, so I'm good with this. Then here we need to select 15 GB, so I'll just make it 15. Don't think that there's a comma over here because that's the setup for my Mac, means my laptop. Rather than wherever you see a comma over here, it is a full stop, means it's a decimal point. So it's 15 GB that I'm selecting, and I can just click create. Now on the left hand side, you can see that the machine with our UpDegree Hadoop 3x M2 lab is there. But what we are missing, we're actually missing the ISO. So until unless we are going to add an ISO, the operating system for Ubuntu will not start. So either you do a right click and go to the settings, or if you just click on this machine and go on top, you can click on settings. Now what are the settings that we need to change? The first one you go to the system, and if you want to increase the memory at later stage also, you can do it over here. Like I want to increase the memory or something, or I want to increase my number of CPUs. I have 4 CPUs in my machine. I want to make it, if I make more than one, of course, and I'm running 3 machines, so it will not work. So minimum 1 processor is fine for me. Remove this floppy option and go to, if you're keeping it, it's no harm. It's not going to use the floppy option because it's not going to identify there is a floppy boot order or something, so it's absolutely fine. Then you can you go to storage, go to empty, and click you can see a disk item icon over here. Click on this and select choose virtual optical disk file. Once you do this, it will take you to your machine, that where you have all those ISO images, and then you can select the one that you need from there. Like 16 I already have in my cache, so it is showing over here Ubuntu 16.04. I select that ISO, but only when I'm going to click on this empty. If you remember that it was written empty, I click on this and then only I would select this. I would not go on to this up degree and select it over here because that's not right option. That's the hard disk. The one that I want to add, it's on the empty side. Go to the networking and select the adapter 1. Make the adapter 1 as host only adapter. Some people may not see by default there is a VBox net 0. I will just show the after this that how you can get these setup done. And then on the adapter 2, select the NAT. Why we are doing these two? Because the host only adapter will help us to get the IP address for the machine, and the NATing, which is network address translation, will help us to translate that IP with the external IP and make a connection from our machine to the virtual box. So that's the NAT will help us. So you just select these two options on the networking, click OK. However, you can also go to share folders, and if you want to create a shared folders, or you want to have any different ports that you want, but this type of settings is more than sufficient. Click OK, and then you right click, say start, just a normal start, or you can just click over here and go to start. Simple. This will take some time to come up, not much, it will be really quick. As you can see, it is available now. So if it is says try Ubuntu and install Ubuntu, so I will click on install Ubuntu, and then you click on continue. Erase disk and install Ubuntu. So it will not going to erase your disk, so don't worry about that. It is just saying that 15 GB whatever you have allocated, that disk would be erased, and we know that this is fresh. So you can just click on erase disk and install Ubuntu. Install now, continue, and select your location. Wherever your location, you can just type a location and continue. Here you can select the options. If you're of course, I believe everyone is comfortable with the English, and that's why we are doing the session in the English. So select English, UK or US, whatever you prefer. Continue, and then you need to give 3 different types of names over here. The first is your name, means your actual name, which will represent your machine. So I'll just give the name as Sakuja. Your computer name, the username with which you're going to log into the computer. So I will say actually the host name. So the host name is the machine name that will represent your virtual machine. So whenever you want to connect to that machine, you will represent by that name. So let's take the computer name as machine 22, just a random name I'm taking. Okay, and let's pick 3.2 because this will show me that 3 is for Hadoop and 2 is the second machine. And then we'll pick a username with which we are going to log into the to this Ubuntu, and we'll select as updegree as a username. Let's give a password and click on continue. Now this step will take around 6 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes depending on your internet speed. So we're not going to waste the time on looking that how the installation will be done, because it's going to the internet, going to download the package and make your machine up. But at the final outcome, how your machine is going to look, that's what I've already have another machine. So I'll just go ahead and start. And you'll be able to see, yes, we have Over here, let me give the password, and you can see already that the name was given as Sakuja over there. Say don't upgrade. We are not looking for any upgrade here, and the machine. So I'll just click on don't upgrade, and once I go and click on this icon, I can type terminal. In the terminal, you'll be able to see that the username is updegree, and this is the previous machine which I've created. So that machine 3.1, which is representing Hadoop 3, and the 1 is the machine. So machine 3.1. And the username is updegree. So this is what you can do your first virtual machine setup. And in the next video, we are going to do the installations of the required packages that will support Hadoop 3x, and then later on we'll start with the installation of Hadoop 3x. Thank you.